got to get back to the relationship.
Hmm.
And it wasn't to imply that we ever left it, but the relationship has come to the forefront now more than ever, because if we're not focused on those relationships, there's no sustainability. So it's a marriage between those two things.
I'm doing all the intros like this. Sorry.
All right, guys. I am super excited. Welcome back to another episode of the Real Advice podcast. I am just, as you can see, I'm excited, but Steve is far more excited for our guest today. We are joined by Renee Funk in Orlando, Florida. For those of you that don't know Renee, Renee's passion is cultivating and nurturing culture with a strong focus on elevating the agent and customer experience. She is the co-founder of the Funk Collection.
Ooh.
She is an Inman ambassador, a sponsor of the Orlando Magic, pretty cool, a badass realtor and team leader, earning back-to-back 2019 and 2020 Real Trend America's Best Awards, and just a kick-ass mom, friend, and person.
Aww.
So I am super excited to have you today. Renee, how's it going?
It's going so well, but how could it not be with an intro like that? And Steve, and like, what is this? Could we all do that together? Because that should be every show ever
Renee,
on the history of the planet.
I have never done that on any of our podcasts.
It's not a thing. He's trying to make it a thing, but you know.
Super excited because Kate had shared so much about you. And I'm just like, I'm just going to listen. That's
that
what
is
I want
not
to do.
listening. Just so you know, that is literally the opposite of listening.
So Steve's a former teacher. Steve, that's not active listening. Active listening is in your ears, not your arms. Okay.
I know. This is 21st century active listening. All right. Okay.
This is not going to be any fun. I can already tell. Let's just call it a day now.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to have wasted your time. All right, Renee. So welcome. Thank you for being here. For those of the people out there that are listening that don't already know who you are, who are you? Let's talk about who are you? Tell us your story.
Who are you?
So tell me about yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
When that question is asked, and I've asked that question before too, and don't you love it when it goes like this? Well, I was born in no, I'm kidding. I'm only kidding, you guys. So, hey, everyone. I'm Renee Funk. I am in Orlando, Florida. I'm a team leader here, and I am super, super fired up about being a realtor. While I didn't enter this profession with much excitement, and certainly not like the excitement that Stephen just had, it was more like being dragged in initially. It didn't take me long to soon realize, once I start to get entrenched in what we have as an industry of real estate, that we work in one of the most magical industries, that we have the opportunity to build and earn relationships that help us then serve the consumer in one of the most important purchases of their life. And that's where they're going to build their memories in their next chapter. So I'm a huge fan of being a realtor. I come with a customer service background in my previous life. So I love the marriage between being forward thinking and tech focused, but also never losing sight of the very important piece of this business. And that is that we are humans connecting to humans.
I love that. Now you just shared with us some sales experience in your previous life. Can you shed a little bit more light upon that? Like, in what type of, sector, industry did you get that sales experience from?
It was customer service experience, actually. Yep. Okay. No, that's fine. I come with a customer service background, both as a flight attendant, which I think my friend Katie here knows. I think we've talked about that in Clubhouse before, as well as I've worked in the hospitality industry, both for the Walt Disney World Company and Disney Cruise Lines.
I've heard of them.
Yeah. So that's where I come from, that love and passion to really focus on the experience that we provide for our customers.
And what a great experience to come from, to then come into real estate to try to elevate that. So that's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very fortunate to have that in my background. And the irony is I did not have sales experience before.
That's crazy. So how did you get the sales experience in real estate? Because, you said you were kind of dragged into the industry.
Yeah.
Could you just, explain how that kind of came to fruition to where you are now?
Well, I get the pleasure and honored to work with my favorite realtor on the planet, and that is my husband. We've been married and together almost 21 years we've been together, and we've worked together for about 18 of those years. He was obviously a realtor before I was. I've been licensed 7 years, and it was a few years of him saying, would you please? Could you please? Will you come over? Will you come over? And at that time, he was an individual agent. And I said, heck no. No, no, no. And then I realized one day I literally sat down and I started digging into what he was building. And I said, you need me. I need this. Let's do it. And it is his forever I told you so. Well, he's got a couple of those, but that is one of the things that I am forever grateful for, that he finally gave me a wet noodle over the head and said, get your butt into this industry.
Wow.
Well, and so like, I'm always intrigued by, the building of a team and kind of working together with your spouse, because obviously Ryan and I do. And now, we have a team as well, right? So what was the journey of like, okay, he finally convinced you to do this. You get your license. Now you're doing the real estate thing. Did you all immediately say we're going to start a team, or were you all working, in kind of parallel paths, or how did that kind of progress?
Well, at first it was just the two of us. And in initial phases, I actually worked for him. I can say that. I worked for him as an unlicensed assistant in the beginning. And then it was a little more dragging in, and he said, get your license. So I did. And in those early days of me being a licensed realtor, working together with my husband, I was his ISA. So I started, more context is that, in 2007, actually, he decided to go into real estate full time. Think about that. 2007. What was happening at that time?
Perfect timing.
Yeah.
It was
Great timing.
It was the biggest blessing of our entire life.
Yeah.
Because he learned, and I like to think I was in real estate. I wasn't, but I was married to one. But we learned what it was like to operate in adversity. And in fact, we went from having a 1,500 square foot condo we rented with no furniture, plastic tables and chairs, and literally a new baby, and the power was getting turned out, to he built a website that still serves us to this day, based on organic SEO.
Wow.
And back then, realtors didn't really have websites to speak of. And so we had an influx of investors coming to Orlando from all over the globe. And we were one of the only ones that had a website to serve that demand.
Amazing. Amazing. That's very much forward thinking. So one of the things that resonated with me, you said you were talking about forward thinking, tech focused, right? And so those are big ticket words. Now, in the 20, like where we currently stand right now, what does forward thinking look like right now with the Funk Collective? So back then, the SEO, having a website, you're absolutely bang on. It didn't exist. But now, what does it look like for your collective in terms of that forward thinking mantra?
Well, I think that's a really great question. And I think forward thinking is really a practice that you should do every day. I don't think it's that it's changed now as compared to then. I think it's something that has been kind of ingrained in us. Sure. Going back to the earlier question as well, what was the evolution? How did you end up with a team? It's because we, in the beginning, we had a demand that we needed to meet, right? A lot of times you'll hear teams are born out of the fact that you have business. You need to spread that out. And so, yes, in the beginning, there was an influx of business coming from our website, realteenorlando.com. And there was a need for agents. And so the forward thinking started, I give full credit to Jeff. He had the foresight back then, and we continue to iterate on that. What does it look like now? The irony is we have an amazing tech platform that we leverage both with our website and other tech solutions. But 2020 was another awakening to remind ourselves, you got to get back to the relationship. And it wasn't to imply that we ever left it, but the relationship has come to the forefront now more than ever, because if we're not focused on those relationships, there's no sustainability. So it's a marriage between those two things.
So how do you maintain, the deep connection you have with past clients, your sphere, when everything is so tech focused? Because look, does tech make things easier? It does, but it also allows for, the personal connections to not exist at the levels that they used to. So how do you essentially managed to continue driving forward both ways, with tech and for the deeper connections, because it's almost like oil and water with that.
It can be if it's not done. Yeah, it can be if it's not done properly. At the end of the day, I'm not a believer that the consumer can be automated in any way. Once that could be possible, if we look back years ago, right? Like even look at, if we want to go as like micro as like email open rates back in the day. Could you imagine? We remember a time when email open rates were like 80 and 90%. So you could literally get emails through and they would read them and engage. Like, what do we do cartwheels down the road for now? If we get an open rate that's like 15%, we're like, yes, it's awesome. Right. So it's really just important for us to feel that we can have tech that helps us serve and automate the internal operations. The consumer is far too savvy to be automated. And what I think a lot of times trips agents up, and I get it, I understand why, we have a lot on our plate, is that we're looking for the solution. We're looking for that. If I get this product, this CRM, this whatever it is, you're going to give me an action plan and I'm going to click a button and it's going to do everything I need it to do. That is where the agents are getting tripped up. The automations that technology gives us efficiencies for is for the internal operations. Okay. The consumer should never see it, feel it, or understand that it's happening because it's for us to serve them.
I love that. I absolutely
and that is such like a real estate agent thing, is like, oh, well, if I get this CRM, then clearly I'm going to sell more homes. Or if I buy this tool, then clearly it's going to make everything better. And like, yeah, it should definitely supplement you more than, run your business. So
I was just in a group in Facebook and I saw the question asked for 1,000th time, and my heart hurts for them a little bit because I understand the why. We're looking for the pill. We're looking for the quick fix, like give us the solution. There's no action plan for the consumer that's going to help. We can't, I don't believe in even, drip emails on consumers. Like we don't even do that. We believe in making sure that the agents know what to do and when, to love on their people, and to have a system in place that helps make more efficiencies so that they can do that at a higher level.
How do you distill that? How do you instill that into the team?
Well, that's a good question. That's a big question.
How do you instill it? That's the $1 million question for team leads, right? How do you instill what you do? You're so passionate about it. You and your husband are so passionate about this. How do you instill it into the team? Not only instill it, but have them essentially do it, execute on that.
And look, we're always a work in progress. One thing I like to say is that I am, and I mean this with my whole heart, is I'm forever a student. I really mean it. I am learning each and every day. I do not have all the answers. And I also subscribe to the fact that when you peel back the curtain behind and pull it back for any business, everything behind that curtain is a circus act if the business is doing it right. Because we should always be iterating. We should always be trying to break things. And what can we do to continue to think forward and really be innovating our business operations? So as far as instilling or distilling it or making sure we have the adoption, it's really a matter of making it a choice that this is the culture that we expect, and being okay with perhaps earning more as a team or selling more or serving in a different way, because it's not about just having tons and tons and tons of people and having no culture. It's about if this is the vision that you want to have, I'm okay with that. And that's awesome. But we're not looking to have a huge, huge, huge team filled with people that don't share the same vision.
Got it. That's really, really good. Can I ask, how big is the team now?
Yep. So I have a total group in Orlando, which, by the way, I run a branch office. So in our branch office, we have 75 agents. Wow. Of those 75 agents, my actual team, which is the team that Jeff and I are a Rainmaker for, is a team of 10. Okay. So when we're referencing our business, for example, we're talking about that team that we're Rainmakers for, and that we actually provide business and systems through our channels and certainly the website that I referred to earlier.
Amazing. That's fantastic.
And that was realtyorlando.com.
Look at you go on demand. Check it out.
I have a feeling you guys are like colluding right now. Okay. I'm not privy to these back office conversations. All right.
Well, in that thought, I could pay it back right back because look what I have right here.
Yeah.
I also have this going, which is this immediate. Yeah. I'm ready.
Steve, you got yours, right? You got your
Hold on. I got a Tom Ferry bobblehead. That's all I got here. Big shout out to Tom Ferry. Big shout out to Tom Ferry.
I don't have a Tom Ferry bobblehead. That needs to change, Mr. Tom Ferry.
I believe you have a Tom Ferry bobblehead, Steve.
Okay, so here's my little plug. For those who don't know, I'm still a Tom Ferry coach, and Tom Ferry gave all these Tom Ferry bobbleheads to all of his coaches.
Can you hold that back up for me? All right, thank you.
Cool. So Renee, someone like you, super successful, got tons of experience, has great foresight and insight. What was your, let's go back. Your first year in the industry as a licensed realtor. What did that look like for you?
A hot mess.
Thank you for being honest.
Same.
A hot mess. So explain, like what was your biggest win? What was your biggest challenge? What was your biggest fail?
So before I give biggest win, biggest fail, I have to say this is for any of the parents that are out there. I have a bit of an analogy that I like to think of this like, and that is I have a 14-year-old and a 10-year-old. So I always say in regard to my 14-year-old, he's the first at everything. So my husband, myself, and my 14-year-old get to experiencing what he's going through and being a parent of that process for the first time every single day, which means we have no idea what the heck we're doing. Like none. And I feel that way as a business owner, again, going back to peel the curtain back. I am not going to sit here and say that I feel any more confident today than I did on that first day. The challenges have changed. Mm. The evolution has changed. I am a business owner that is at a different point of scale than I was on day one, experiencing different challenges today. I still feel the same way, which is, wow, I have a lot to learn. And the cool thing, if I look at me now as compared to those 7 years ago, and on that first day that I had that, awesome piece of paper, is that I am much more confident now to admit what I just admitted to you. And that is who I am, that I don't have all the answers. Yeah. I don't. But what I do have is an incredible tribe of humans that I collaborate with and that we get to go through this journey with. So looking back to biggest mistakes back then, probably underestimating myself and thinking too small and not realizing how powerful of an opportunity we have as realtors being business owners. It's much more than I'm going to go out and help somebody buy a home. It's a business ownership that you have. And I think I very much underestimated how important and how much opportunity that could bring for my family.
Now, can we dig a little bit deeper in that? Because that's real. I learned that very early on, that I was not going to be a sales representative that was just straight up transactional. That's it. No, yeah. I looked at myself coming into the industry as the CEO of my business. Now, the CEO wears many hats, sits in many chairs, that being said. So what was the thing? So when you realized that this is a business, what was it? So for me, it was like, okay, strategically, I need to learn to delegate and I need to learn to
that?
Yeah, I know. And hire for those strategic positions. That's what I learned to do. Right. So what do you mean by that? Like being the business operator owner in that first year, what was something that was glaringly apparent to you that was like, you know what, we need to pivot or adjust these parameters or scaling or hiring, whatever it may be?
Well, if I look back to that point in my life, I certainly had no clue that I was going to need to sharpen skill sets on HR and on leadership, which again is a forever student, right? And understanding what it meant to really focus on bigger opportunities.
Mm.
If I think back to that moment, I would just say to agents, if you're just getting your license, realize it's much more than about today. That I get as realtors, there's a need. We have to earn an income. We need a paycheck. We need that deal. But I really wish, looking back, that I had a little more focus in those early years of knowing, like, everything's going to be okay. You can play the long game, which is what we've ended up doing. Like, that's really how we've built our businesses, on the long game, but maybe a little less stress because it's all going to work out when you invest in the long game.
Well, and that's so tough, right? Especially with zero money coming in. And that's something that, like, we talk about to our team a lot, is like the concept of serving before opportunity, right? And like,
Yep.
you know, when you go into that appointment and you tell a client that they shouldn't sell their home, or that maybe it's not the right time to buy, or whatever it may be, right? I think there's just so much power in that, and truth. And, you know, people, you know, are going to respect you more when you tell them the truth, right?
But confidence comes over time. And no matter what we do as realtors, until we reach a certain point in our career, we're not going to have the confidence to be able to say what they need to hear rather than say what we think they want to hear. Because I was guilty of that for, I don't even know how many years, probably 3 or 4 years, especially as a listing agent. Like, raise your hand if you fell in that trap. I fell in that trap. Totally. Like, but now it's a business investment. I'm there to invest into my business decision if I'm listing this property, and they're there to choose and decide if I'm the right person for this role. We both have a decision to make, and sometimes we both might not choose each other, and that's okay, because I'm going to tell them what they need to hear, because I realize that it's much better for our business and their well-being for us to do that. And I didn't used to do that.
Yeah. That's always a moment in everyone's career when you have that realization that it's like, I think that's when you're, you know, you can then say that you're a seasoned agent, or that you've been around long enough, right?
Right.
I guess with that being said too, like, we're really focusing on, you know, the beginning of your career and things that you would change if you could go back. Let's kind of pivot or adjust the conversation a little bit. You know, if you were giving advice to someone that had been in the business for a while, right, and they're looking for something that, you know, to really hang on to, what would be your advice to someone that's been in the business longer?
2 things. Number 1 is never, ever, ever be afraid to say you don't know the answer. And as an individual agent, or an agent starting off in earlier phases of your career, that might seem like an obvious thing, like, okay, I don't know the answer. But another trap I fell into is finding myself in a leadership position and externally being afraid to say I don't know the answer. So I might internally, to my, you know, my internal collab tribe, say, oh my gosh, I don't know, and I'm freaking out, I don't know. And the reality is that it's okay to say out loud with everyone around you, I don't know the answer, someone help. What have you experienced? So that would be the first thing. And then the other thing I would say is that, oh, goodness, just enjoy the ride. I mean, going back to what I said earlier, is it's not any easier or harder now. Like, we're still just trying to say the better version of ourselves. And I'm much more in tune with, like, I'm enjoying the journey. I really am. And I know that might sound cheesy and not what you want to hear, but like, it's a lot of fun. It just is.
You know what I love? I had a really great conversation with one of my office managers yesterday, and we were sitting on a bench, you know, socially distanced, having a drink, and she's like, "Where do you see yourself in 10 years?" And I know it's a question we're going to ask you, but it kind of hit me and be like, you know what? I'm all for goals and setting the vision, and I get that, and I do that, but you know what? We don't always have to have an answer for that. You know what? Live in the present, enjoy the ride. Take every day as an opportunity, squeeze everything out of every single second that you have on this planet, and just be happy with that. So often it's like the goal, the 10-year, the 20, the 50, that's great. But you know what? Let's not lose sight of just enjoying the moment that we're in. So I really appreciate you saying that, Renee, because that's a very powerful statement, and people need to hear more of that versus, like, 10 years, all of this, that time and place. There's a time and place for that. So,
and I get it that we need to have goals. I really do. And speaking of those goals, if we want to go a little tactical, Katie might like strangle me for saying this, but I'm going to say it anyway. One of the things that surprises me about even top producing agents or, even some teams that I know is they're not using a CRM. And I say that I nudged Katie because she's probably like, why are you talking about a CRM? But because there's so few people who actually leverage a CRM at a high level. We've kind of talked about that in Clubhouse before. And if you're not using a CRM, and I mean using it 100% all in,
yeah.
you are leaving an incredible amount of opportunity on the table. Incredible. And I talked to a lot of agents, top producers, team leaders, brokerages, and they're like, no, it's on here. It's in Facebook. I'm like, this is not a CRM, people.
Okay, so share with us, Renee, because I use a CRM, you use one, Katie. I know we use one. When you say 100%, I feel like I could never ever get to the point where I'm actually utilizing it 100%, and we use our CRM at a very high level. Like,
so I guess finish your question, Steve. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, I just want to know, like, what does that look like for you when you say maximize it to 100% potential? What does that look like for the Funk Collective?
Okay, so you asked me earlier about how do we get adoption? How do we make sure that we are, engaging throughout and everybody's plugging into the systems and vision? Bottom line, if an agent on my team comes to me and says, I spoke to so-and-so, could you take a look? And we obviously do this a lot, is could you help me take a peek at this customer, the profile in the CRM, and see maybe some areas that I could improve on to help get them to the finish line? We do that a lot, especially, in our coaching calls. If they come to me and say that, and I pull it up, I should be able to see the whole storyline of relationship between everybody on our team that might have had a touch point with that consumer, customer, previous customer, sphere of influence, whomever it is, right? And then the agent says to me, oh, but no, you're wrong. I've talked to them and this is what we uncovered. And they start to give me verbally a whole bunch of other things. I stop the conversation and say, it didn't happen. It's not in our CRM. No. Go back because you're not giving the full picture. The CRM is the storyline of service from the moment that the customer acquisition happened and beyond, far beyond closing if we're doing it right, year after year after year. So whether it's our TC, whether it's our marketing admin, whether it's myself as the team leader, whether it's the first call agent, whether it's whomever on our team that touches that customer, call, text, email, anything, it's in the CRM.
I love that. So I'm going to pull something at the storyline of service. That is epic. I'm going to use that. That is such a great line. Storyline of service. Epic. Thank you.
I'm glad I could serve you today.
Honestly, I'm making tons of notes. So I'm looking down. I'm making notes. This is what I love to do. And so I know everyone listening is getting so many wonderful nuggets. So sorry, Katie, we're going to get right back on track. I digress all the time.
All good. I warned Renee that there may be some curveballs thrown at her throughout the afternoon. And
I didn't even get questions. I don't think so.
All good. Yeah. Curveballs from the plan that you never received.
That's all good. This is what we do. And if you'd like more of this too, Katie and I get together on Clubhouse often. So connect with me. What else do you have for me?
Yeah, no, I'm waiting for Katie.
Okay. I wasn't sure if you had something else to do. So I guess tactically, what would you say as far as using your CRM 100%? If I've never used a CRM before, or, things are a little bit of a cluster, what would be some things, maybe your top 3 things that you should monitor, like if you're a team leader, right, that you should monitor or ensure are being done so you can go from 0% and make your way towards 100?
The number one thing that we do when an agent joins our team is that we encourage them to start with a minimum of 30 sphere of influence or self-generated contacts in their database. But those contacts cannot be input into the CRM until they have 4 criteria in its entirety. And that is name, phone number, email, and mailing address. If you don't have all 4 of those, it doesn't go in the database because those 4 things together are marketing gold When you have all four of those items, we can then, with purpose, with intention, and with really great synergy, touch and love on our people, right? Do things like this, which is amazing from Miss Katie. So I would say that would be one of the biggest misses is someone, will come to the team and they'll go, oh, but I have the email address or I have this. And like, that's awesome. What other ways can you contact that person? Because if the person's relationship warrants pouring into love, attention, time, and eventually a budget of marketing, then we can get that information. You can Facebook chat, call them. I don't have to go through the ways, right? Like we can get humans. So you send them a message and say, I need your phone number. I'm going to give you a call, right? Call. No texting. You don't build relationships on text and email. Text and emails are tools. Phone calls and in-person and video conferences, that's how you actually develop and build stronger relationships. So that would be the number one thing, Katie, is making sure that you have a database with contacts in all four criteria. If they're not there, don't put it in the database. Get the information and then put it in. Did you want another one, I think?
I think that's enough work for most of the people out there that are listening that don't use their CRM. They're like, well, shit, now I've got to call people and get their addresses and emails and things. So
the 30 I started with is actually 0. What you're getting at. Yeah.
I only DM them. How am I supposed to do all of this?
Which is amazing because, and I'm not saying DMs, private messages, and all those things don't work. Those are great. Those are a tool. So if we need to procure information, we use that tool. We go through, like another thing I'll do when you start is, see this phone right here? You have contacts in there. If you look at your contacts right now, you're probably going to be alarmed at the number because it's in the hundreds and it's probably many of hundreds. And you look and you say, I don't know a lot of these people, but the thing is that all realtors have a handful of transactions right here in this phone they're not tapping into. Go to A, come to me when you're done with Z, input those into your CRM with all four criteria. I promise you're going to walk away with a couple transactions.
100%, for sure.
That's like a mic drop. Like, pick up your phone. So you say A to Z, and we say A to Z. Make a call. Everyone's phone number, name, email, and address, and you're bang on. You're going to have dozens of transactions if you do it right. So I love that.
And I have to be transparent because look, I believe in walking the walk, but I'm literally looking at my phone right now because I don't even know how many I have in there because I haven't done A to Z in like a long, long time. But when we're a newer agent or we're an agent that's saying to ourselves, I would like to build more business, these are some of the things we'll do. And by the way, when you're done with your contacts in your phone, we're going to your Facebook contacts. You have 5,000. Awesome. We're going to go 1 to 5,000. Might take you 2 years. Oh, well, there's business in there.
Yeah.
You're absolutely bang on. So, you being so heavily tech focused, let me ask you this, like, what do you see happening to our industry in the next few years? Because there's so much, tech is integral. I find it's integral in this business. What do you find in the next couple of years kind of being a disruptor in our industry in terms of tech and real estate?
I love that word, by the way, disruptor. I'll say, raise your hand again. Raise your hand if you remember when the Zestimate came out. Disruptor, everybody freak out. There's an algorithm that's going to tell potential sellers what their home value is. So you know what we did, and by the way, I wasn't licensed there, so I should just say Jeff, but I probably pulled some paperwork for him back then. He would go to a listing appointment and he would say, Renee, I'm going to a listing appointment. Can you go ahead and print that out, the Zestimate? And back in the day when they first came out, he would slide it across the table and say, so let's talk about this. This is one data point for us. Now let's talk about I'm in your house right now. So I guess the disruption word to me always kind of, I just say, here's the thing. All technology is tools for us to help us do our job better.
Yep.
Period. End of story. When we are focused on the humans that we're serving, we need to be present in this transaction. So be knowledgeable of the tech that's out there, understand it, understand the consumer experience with it, put your consumer hat on and get it. Like if you get one of those iBuyer platforms, submit it. Go through the process, feel what the consumer is going to feel, and then leverage that as a data point or an element tool chest, put it in there, save it, understand it.
That is amazing. Like, you don't combat it, go through the experience, identify what that's going to look like for the consumer, and then potentially use that as leverage to highlight the pain points that they're going to feel using that platform versus going through you. I think that is amazing. That's absolute gold. That's great advice.
On the consumer topic too, I'll just share this, is especially over the last year, there's been a lot of conversation we meet with our agents every morning in a huddle, which I know a lot of teams do, but we'll go through a phase where we'll say, okay, for the next 7 days, I want us to be very aware, full body aware, put your consumer hat on, and everywhere you go and what you experience in your consumer full body awareness, absorb what it makes you feel like. So you're ordering on Amazon, great, understand that. You go to a small business provider, great, understand that. Go to the car dealership, understand how did they make you feel? Why did it make you feel that way? Another thing I always do is when I can take a sales call, when someone's calling me in a cold call, if I have the moment to do it, I always want to take it. Because number one, I want to give them empathy. And number two, I want to understand what the heck are they saying and how does it make me feel? Because I might learn something, or I might say, don't ever do that.
Yeah, I actually, in one of our team meetings, I think it was 2 weeks ago, I was running a little late. So I tried to call the coffee shop on my way to put in my order so that I could just run in, grab it and leave, right? Because I knew I didn't have enough time to go in and have them steam the milk and do all the things, right? And so I called and she picks up and she's like, hello? And I'm like, is this ABC Coffee? They're like, yeah. I'm like, okay, wonderful. So I wanted to place an order. She's like, okay, can I put you on hold for a while? That phrase, for a while, it really stuck with me. And I was like, no, I said yes. And then after about a minute, I just hung up. But if she would have told me like, hey, I'm working with the customer right now. Can I put you on hold for 2 minutes? I would have had like a time frame in my mind. And so that was that entire week. Also, I didn't have caffeine before our meeting. I don't need much caffeine, as you guys both know, but I didn't have caffeine, so I was a little, whatever. And that was the entire day I was focused on that. But yeah,
so absorb that and remember it, because our words are very powerful. The words we use, which is a whole other episode. Maybe you'll have me back another day. But simple adjustments in the words that we use can change the way we make people feel and can open up dialogues and conversations in a whole new way. And it literally can be the difference of one word that you use.
Absolutely. Amazing. Well,
we're going to any other questions.
Okay, so are you going to ask the last question, or do you want
me to ask it? You can ask it.
So Renee, we're going to end this off on a much lighter note, and it's a question we ask every single one of our guests is, it's your last meal on Earth, Renee. It's your last meal on Earth. What is the meal, or where are you going to get the meal?
Oh my gosh. That is literally impossible. I love food.
It's the question that stumps everyone.
I know,
hitting questions.
Because I love food. It is in which you would probably know, especially the last year, if you've seen me at all. Okay, so I would say that my husband's, because he's the best chef ever, his homemade spaghetti is off the charts. And if we are ever doing a super special meal, he literally makes the homemade pasta, the whole 9 yards, and it is so, so good. So I'm going to give another nod to my awesome hubby and say his pasta.
I like it.
We need to have him on the next time.
I'll be over shortly.
You can come over. It doesn't take him long. It's only about 8 hours.
No big deal.
Amazing. Awesome.
Okay, well, you guys have been amazing. This was no fun at all.
I'm sorry. Renee, it was an absolute pleasure having you. Always fun to hang out. Cannot wait until we can hang out in person. Maybe Steve and I will come back down for another conference to where we can go eat food and not, make Jeff. Make Jeff slave over the stove for us.
If it's during season, let's make sure we get you both to a Magic game for sure.
Sweet. Now you're talking my language. Love it.
One last thing before we sign off, Renee, if people would like to find you online, other than going to realtyinorlando.com, how can they connect with you?
I'm a huge LinkedIn fan, so find me on LinkedIn. And I'm more recently pouring into my Instagram, which is at Renee_Funk.
Awesome.
Amazing.
deal.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Renee. We know how incredibly busy you are, how successful you are, how real you are. We just really appreciate you being an open book on today's podcast. And make sure that everyone who's watching and listening, you got to follow Renee. She's the real deal. So thank you again, Renee, for your time.
My pleasure. Do we wrap the podcast the same way that you started?
I've got to end it, so I can do like
we can
one
do like the
arm.
air drums.
I can do a one
I
arm.
love it.
All right.
I love it.
I'm just going to.
Bye, you guys. It's been a lot of fun. Take care.